welcome, and thank you very much for coming. I really appreciate the crowd. I know nobody wants to go to a sewer meeting on any evening, so I appreciate your being here. I'm Amy Lowell. I'm the wastewater superintendent for the town of Falmouth. I want to let you know a few things. One is that this evening is being recorded by Falmouth Community Television. Thank you very much, Falmouth Community Television. So it's being broadcast live, and it also will be on FCTV at a later date and online on their site. So I'm going to give a presentation, and then at the end of that, I will take questions. There's a microphone here. If there's somebody over here that wants to ask a question and can't make it over here, doesn't want to make it over here, I can bring this microphone over. So I would appreciate, particularly for the Falmouth Community Television recording, that you hold your questions until the end and that you use a microphone when you ask them so that the audience at home can hear them. There are bathrooms on both sides of the building, at the next hallway here on the right, and then if you go out the left, the first hallway there on your right. And we'll get going. This presentation tonight is about the Little Pond Sewer Service Area. You all got the notification in the mail, I assume, because you are property owners in the part of the sewer service area that was not available before, that has just become available. I sent out a letter last month saying that the sewer service area, including Mara Vista and T-Ticket Highway, was now available to connect. So starting off, I have a couple of people here that I wanted to introduce. Henry Albro is with F.R. Mahoney. F.R. Mahoney is the grinder pump manufacturer's representative, and I've asked him to be here to hear questions, and he'll be doing a part of the presentation. Trish Favuli is here somewhere, and she'll speak a little bit about the betterments. Julian Suso, the town manager, is here, not to answer questions on this project. This is my show primarily, but he kindly is here to hear the presentation and hear the questions as well. I hope I'm not forgetting anybody else I ought to be acknowledging. So again, the reason you're here is because Mara Vista and T-Ticket Highway and the rest of the abutting sewer service area are available. The rest of the things I'm going to talk about: sewer connections and what it means to connect to the sewer, the permitting process for sewer connections, talking about grinder pumps, and costs and betterments at the end of the presentation. The town has a brand new website, which is really nice. You won't be familiar with it if you haven't used it before. There are substantial changes, so it'll look different when you go on. But I think you'll find it a really lovely website, and there's a great deal of information there. So now when you come in, you see this. You go under government to get to the LPSA project. You go under government to the wastewater division, and the Little Pond Sewer Service Area project is the first item there. And there is a tremendous amount of information, including everything I'm going to talk about tonight, on that website. Information about the permit process, information about grinder pumps, the map that was out there. There's a great deal of information there, so I would encourage you to take a look at it, tell other people about it, and obviously use it not just for wastewater, but for your other town questions. This is what you saw quite a bit over the last couple of years. I apologize for the inconvenience. I know it's been a great deal of headache for a lot of people. And a couple of other pictures to take us back through what you've been through over the last couple of years. We began on Mara Vista in October 2015 by directional drilling the low-pressure sewer main down the southern end of the sewer, and that saved actually quite a bit of excavation in the southern half of the Mara Vista Peninsula, and that was really the start on Mara Vista. Just a few other pictures. Montauk Street in February of last year, Mara Vista near Oak Street in May. Here we were. Robert B. Auer Company was the contractor for this work, and you imagine you became quite familiar with them. This is them doing two sewer laterals at once in Route 28, also in May. Low-pressure laterals going in on Hickory Lane. Bedford Street in September. You can see them installing the gravity pipe next to the manhole. Final paving happened last month, and here's what it looks like today. So thank you for putting up with all that, and I hope you will be happy with the project and with the restoration that was done. As I mentioned, the entire sewer service area is now available. I did hear a rumor today, which I don't want to allow to spread. Falmouth Heights got a letter from me a year ago saying that they had a year to connect to the sewer. And I sent out a letter last month to all the people who hadn't gotten a letter before, who were not in Falmouth Heights. And the letter I sent out this past month said that Mara Vista and T-Ticket Highway have a year to connect from April. So they have until April 2018 to connect to the sewer. The rumor I heard today was that Falmouth Heights was extended until April of 2018, and that is not correct. Falmouth Heights, the original deadline was to connect by June, by next month of this year. I do expect to send out a letter in the next month to Falmouth Heights residents. Are there any Falmouth Heights residents here? A couple of them. So, well, that's okay. I just, no, you're not in trouble. I just want to let you know that I'll be sending out a letter in the next month that provides an extension through the summer. But we really need we really need properties to connect. The sewer was built to improve water quality, and we need the properties on the sewer to connect. So I'll be sending out a follow-up letter giving an extension to that, but not an unlimited extension. At some point, say late next fall, fines will start to come into place where property owners who have not yet connected, who've had more than a year to connect, they'll have 14, 16, they will have had 15, 16 months at least to connect. We'll start trying to be a little more draconian with it. But at this point, most of you here got a letter saying just now. Yes, sir? Yeah, what are the fines? You know, we haven't even gotten to the point of figuring that out yet. What I mean right now is everybody who abuts all properties that are developed that abut the sewer, meaning the property is on the street where the sewer runs, all those properties have to connect to the sewer. And initially, Falmouth Heights was given a year. That year has almost elapsed. There will be an extension through this fall. At some point, everybody's got to be connected. And so we're not charging fines right now. We're not doing any of that right now. I'm just telling you, you will have to connect, and there will be you will know that through letters that come and additional communication. But we're not at that point yet. Okay. Properties with failed septic systems may be required to connect sooner to the sewer system, and if that's the case, you probably know who you are. Property owners who are trying who have been to the Board of Health got a variance, and the condition of the variance was, yes, you don't have to upgrade your septic system right now, but you need to do it as soon as you can after the sewer becomes available. Sewer connections. So what the town's contractor installed is the sewer pipe in the street, what we call the sewer main, and a lateral that goes from that sewer main in the street to the property line for each property in the sewer service area. The property owner's responsibility is to connect their building, the drain from their building, to that lateral stub at the property line. No work on a property can begin until all the applicable permits are issued for the property. So I said it's available. That doesn't mean you can go out tomorrow and connect. Obviously, your contractors need to get all the required permits for it, and I'll talk more about that. Sewer connection types. About half of the sewer connections in the Little Pond Sewer Service area are gravity connections, which means that the wastewater flows from your house and into the sewer main in the street by gravity only. The other half are considered low pressure lines, which means that you will need a grinder pump on your property to grind the wastewater and pump it to the pipe in the street and eventually out to the lift station. There are a few properties that will actually, their property abuts a sewer main, but if, say, the property is, the elevation of the property is below the sewer, you may actually, even though you abut a gravity main, you may have to pump to that gravity line just because of the layout of your property. There aren't many like that, but there are a few. The map here is difficult to see, obviously, but it's on the website and it's out there on the table. And it shows in green is the gravity portion of the system, and in tan is the low pressure part of the system. TAN is generally the southern half of Mara Vista, or low pressure, meaning requires a grinder pump, is generally the southern half of Mara Vista. But there are also are properties along the shoreline in each, or near the shore on each side, that because of the elevation will also require grinder pumps. Just a couple of pictures of what the lateral stubs look like for each of those types. Most of you know, but maybe not everybody does. If you have a gravity lateral, what that means is the contractor put at the property line this 4-inch cast iron cover that looks like the picture on the left. You can see somebody marked where they wanted their sewer lateral with the white sign, and the 4-inch stub was placed there. If you're on the low pressure part of the system, what you see is just that circular metal cap, which is a smaller, say, I don't know exactly the diameter, but say 2.5, 3/4 inch diameter, and that's actually a valve stem, so that the wastewater, the sewer pipe can be shut off at the property line. So that's what they look like at the property line, and that's where the contractor left it. So I'm talking mostly tonight about residential connections, because within the entire Little Pond Sewer Service Area, there are about 1,400 properties that are connecting, and only, say, 37 of those are commercial or larger multifamily. So I'm focusing mainly on residential properties, single-family residential in my presentation. But there are those 37 commercial properties, and obviously they're quite important as well. The permitting process for commercial and multifamily properties will be different from what we require or what we're doing for single-family residential. Commercial and multi-unit will have to go through all the normal permitting processes they would do for any town project. So they'd come to are there any commercial property owners here to hear about the commercial? Okay, you know what, I can skip that for now, and there's information about that on the website, and commercial property owners can also contact myself, or Kyle is the other person I forgot to introduce. Where's Kyle? Kyle Swanstrom is in the back. Many of you have spoken with Kyle. Kyle is the project coordinator for the Little Pond Sewer Service Area, and he has been a tremendous resource for this project, answering questions, handling grinder pump pickups. So if you have additional questions, you may end up speaking with me, or most often you end up speaking with Kyle. I'm sorry I didn't introduce you earlier. So I will leave off on the commercial for now, but just know, if you're listening to this on TV, the process for permitting is different for commercial than it is for residential. You'd get all the regular permits that you would for any construction project, and a commercial or multifamily will, in almost every case, in all but the absolute simplest cases, will need an engineered plan. Single-family residential connections in general, I haven't seen an engineered plan yet for those. So for single-family residential, the town selectmen voted a while back, several years back, that there would be a single consolidated permit process for single-family connections, because there were going to be almost 1,400 property owners coming in to apply. And that process is an online permit process that combines all the permits needed for a residential sewer connection. So it's the sewer connection permit, the plumbing permit, the electrical permit, the trench permit, the health permit for septic system abandonment. All of those permits can be obtained online through this permit application process for a single $50 fee. So normally you'd go place to place to place and pay a different fee for each of those permits, but in this case it's a single fee. It's strongly recommended that the person most familiar with the installation that you're going to be doing apply for the permits. It is possible to do the permit process as an individual, but there's a great deal of information that's required. Just imagine going from place to place to place to get all the permits. You need a sewer connection plan, a sketch that shows how the connection is going to be made. You need the license numbers of all the people that are applying. It's strongly recommended that you have either your plumber, or in a few cases there is an excavator who is applying, have your contractor do this application process for you. You will also need a computer with internet access, a scanner, and all the information that's needed for the connection. One more thing, this combined permit it covers everything that's needed for a sewer connection, But if you're doing additional work in your house, you're rebuilding your bathrooms, you're redoing your kitchen, obviously that's not covered by the combined permit. You'd have to go do whatever additional permitting is needed for that. This is just showing on the town's website the apply for permit link under the Little Pond Sewer Service Area combined permit process. So the first step regarding a sewer connection is to contact plumbers and installers to get quotes for a sewer connection. The town of Falmouth requires that a plumber that's licensed in the state of Massachusetts take responsibility for the single-family residential sewer connections. And that's in the town code, and it was amended in the April town meeting to make sure that there was a licensed entity responsible for these sewer connections. So once your plumber installer is connected, they can apply for the combined permit. There are guidelines for the sewer connections that we've provided to the plumbers and installers. We've had 3 training sessions that Henry Alborough has given for grinder pump installers. So for plumbers, excavators, electricians that are going to be doing grinder pumps installations, we've had 3.5-hour, 4-hour training by F.R. Mahoney in how to do those installations and make sure it works out well. And so for low pressure installations, if you're going to have a grinder pump, it's strongly recommended that you select a contractor who has gone through that training and is familiar with the E1 installation process. It's different. Other people have done gravity connections before. They may not have done a grinder pump installation, or they may have put pumps in tanks before, but they really should have, the people involved should have had training on the grinder pump, this specific grinder pump installation. We have a list on the town website of all the contractors that have, contractors meaning plumbers, excavators, electricians that have attended our training. It's in alphabetical order. We're not certifying people, we're not recommending people, but we're providing a list. It was also out front, and a lot of you, I think, picked that up. It's a list of people who've attended the training. I can take one more quick question, sir, but I'd prefer to answer questions at the end.
I was just going to ask when the next course on that.
Let's talk afterwards. That was intended to be the last one. We've had 3 over the last 2 years. So the process after the permit's been submitted, all the town departments that have to review that application can review it concurrently. They review it online. And then the permit is emailed to the applicant, to whoever applied for it. And before the contractor's ready, they have to call the various inspectors that are going to be required and ask for an inspection. After the town inspectors have inspected the installation and signed off on it, your contractor, your plumber or your excavator is supposed to call F.R. Mahoney to do a startup inspection. They know this. If they've attended the training, they hear this up one side and down the other. They call F.R. Mahoney to schedule a startup inspection. F.R. Mahoney sends a service tech out. They take a look at the installation, and most of them pass, but some of them have an issue or two, and so a letter is sent to the town and to the contractor saying, you got an issue you need to correct, and we'll come back and make sure it's corrected. So in order to close out a permit, this combined permit, I'm going to be looking for sign-off by all the inspectors, an as-built drawing from your plumber. And again, they know this. It's just, again, on the sketch showing dimensions to things so that later your plumber or you can find various parts of this sewer connection. Plumber certification saying they've done this connection in accordance with the town's requirements, and F.R. Mahoney's inspection report. 305 permits have been issued to date, meaning, like I said, Falmouth Heights was made available a year ago. So 305 permits have been issued. 237 residential connections were completed as of last Friday. Of those, 136 were gravity and 101 were low pressure or grinder pump. Commercial permits, I've issued 6 commercial permits. 2 of them have been connected and 4 are underway. So that's just a status, and to let you know this does work. It sounds awfully complicated, and I apologize for that, but we set it all up and it has been working. There are hiccups along the way, but a lot of connections have been made, and it's working for everybody, I believe. Grinder pumps. I've introduced this topic a little bit. The town engaged in a competitive bid process to get a high-quality, standardized grinder pump for all the properties that needed it in the area. We also required in that bid process a 5-year warranty of the pump. Environment One, which is abbreviated E1, E/1, was the successful bidder in that process, and Henry, who I keep referring to, represents F.R. Mahoney, who represents E1. So F.R. Mahoney is the service company for Environment One, the grinder pump manufacturer. The Board of Selectmen voted a grinder pump policy in May of 2016. Again, for single-family residential properties, the town will provide in addition to providing the grinder pump, which I will talk about a little bit more, but in addition to providing the grinder pump and the accessories for that, the selectmen voted that the town would provide a one-time partial reimbursement for the cost of grinder pump installations. Citizens had raised the issue that it appeared that grinder pump installations were going to be more expensive for the homeowners. And through discussions and a committee that the town manager formed, it was decided that the town would provide a one-time partial reimbursement for the additional cost, the additional estimated cost of installing grinder pumps. The Board of Selectmen hasn't determined the process for that yet, and there will be meetings to determine how that goes in the future, but they did make that vote. And my understanding is it's not intended to offset the entire cost. This is a partial reimbursement for a portion of the cost. The town will provide for maintenance of the pumps. There's a 5-year warranty through the bid process. So over the next 5 years, it was covered in any case. But this vote, the Board of Selectmen's policy is that after that 5-year warranty expires, the town will still have a service contractor that is available in the same way that F.R. Mahoney will be available to provide service if and when it's needed for the grinder pumps. So you'll have a phone number to call, not just for the next 5 years, but for beyond that, for any service issues. Maintenance due to improper use or abuse of the grinder pump, of course, will not be covered either by the warranty or by that long-term service agreement. And I'll talk a little bit more about improper or proper use in a bit. If service is needed and it is not due to an improper use issue, then it is covered by the warranty and it's covered by the service agreement. The Board of Selectmen also voted to provide emergency pump out of Little Pond Sewer Service Area grinder pumps during a widespread power outage. So that's something I'll talk about a little bit more as well. The town will replace the pumps if there's no evidence of abuse or improper use when they reach the end of their useful life. So this was a big commitment that the Board of Selectmen made as well. So the end of the useful life is, say, 15, 20 years. The Board of Selectmen voted that those pumps would be replaced by the town at that time. Grinder pumps continued. So I'd said that the town will provide one grinder pump unit to each single-family property owner, residential property owner that needs it. The property owner will own that unit, and as I said, is responsible for paying a contractor to install it. The town is not providing pumps for commercial properties, but as I have told several commercial property owners to contact F.R. Mahoney for Town of Falmouth pricing. Through that bid process, we got very competitive pricing from F.R. Mahoney. So commercial properties should contact them and reference Falmouth pricing to make sure that they get that advantage. So this is just an example of what a completed grinder pump installation can look like. This 4 or 5 inches of the lid of the grinder pump unit does have to be exposed when it's complete, so you will be able to see that when the work is done, and you've maybe seen those now, some of them in Falmouth Heights. This is so the pump can breathe, ventilate. It needs to be able to get air in and out. The grinder pump top cannot be buried and covered or it won't work. They do make plastic rocks. there is landscaping that can be put around it, but you can't bury the whole lid. There's also a control panel that needs to be mounted within eyesight of the grinder pump on the outside of the building. There's a small, here it looks large, but it's a small, sort of the same size as a home alarm system panel. This is called a remote sentry or a remote alarm panel that ought to go in your house somewhere. The reason you need this, initially contractors weren't installing this. There was a little communication problem and they were just handing them to homeowners. We had to send them back out and ask them to install them. These need to be in the house because it provides an alarm if your power's out. This little indoor sentry has a battery backup and it will still beep and tell you that the level in your grinder pump is higher and you need to conserve water, and it's an alarm that will trigger even during a power outage. So it doesn't need to be right at your front door, but it needs to be somewhere you will hear it and be able to acknowledge it. Grinder pump pickup, Kyle Swanstrom has been helping out with, and that's at the DPW building. Your contractor or your plumber will arrange to pick it up when all the permit processes have been, when the permit's been issued. When the representative, your contractor, your plumber comes to pick up the pump, they're going to need to bring with them a form that's signed by a property owner's representative saying, yes, I want you to pick up my grinder pump, and yes, I will own it when I'm done. And this is because it's an expensive piece of equipment. We don't want to just hand it to somebody who says it's for a certain property. So we do need your signature on that piece of paper saying, yes, I want this guy to pick it up for me, and I acknowledge I'm going to own it. It also, I forgot, that same piece of paper also provides a right of entry, meaning that the town agreed to provide service and we have warranty maintenance. This piece of paper is what the town will have on file, and it gives us a right of entry to go onto your property to get into the lid of that tank if we need to do service. There's one other piece of paper that I didn't mention. Your contractor will come to you at the beginning of the permitting process asking you to sign an acknowledgement form saying that you want to work with that plumber for the sewer connection and he agrees to do the work for you on this property. We don't want people getting permits for property owners who haven't asked them to do that. So you will be asked by your plumber to sign those two pieces of paper. These are grinder pumps sitting at the Department of Public Works waiting to be used. These are indoor grinder pump units. I didn't talk much about these because I don't expect many of them to be installed. But in a case where you have very limited outdoor space and or where you have you have plumbing fixtures, showers, toilets in your basement, an indoor pump may be the best way for you to go. So we do have some of those that they are also being provided to property owners who request them. We've had one installed yet out of the 106 that I said we've had installed, one was an indoor. As I'd mentioned before, the E1 units are expected to last 15 to 20 years. If you do have a pump problem, you would contact the phone number that's on the pump control panel and request FR Mahoney service. And you want to limit water use until it's been addressed. So I'll talk a little bit more about that. FR Mahoney is to respond within 24 hours. FR Mahoney will troubleshoot the pump problem. They may remove the pump and put in a temporary pump and take back that pump to their shop to take a look at it. They'll make a determination at that time or once it's back at the shop if the issue is an issue with the pump that shouldn't have happened, or an issue with use again or abuse of the pump. If it's a warranty issue, obviously there's no charge. If there's an installation issue, which would be on the plumber or excavator side, or there's abuse of the pump, then E1 is going to bill the town, and we will seek to get that back from homeowners. The property owner must responsibly use their grinder pump. What does that mean? Number one, it means your contractor needs to install it properly, and that's why we have these inspections both by the town and by FR Mahoney to make sure that that happens. Grinder pumps can handle all typical wastewater. They're made to do that. There is no concern about flushing anything you should normally flush down a toilet, down the toilet. Toilet waste, shower waste, normal normal sewage can go down down the drain when you have a grinder pump. However, you don't want to flush down the drain things like wipes, Those wipes, they sell them now, like baby wipes or facial wipes or counter wipes. They call them flushable. They are not flushable. They can clog your grinder pump. What they do if you don't have a grinder pump is they go with the gravity wastewater down to our pump station and they clog up our pump station. We have to pull up the pump and remove these huge clogs of wipes from our pumps. It's a terrible, terrible issue. So other rags, grease, kitchen grease, you don't want to dump your kitchen grease down the drain. You wouldn't want to do that if you have a septic tank. And grease also ends up at our pumps. Oops, not supposed to touch the microphone. You don't want to dump kitchen grease down the drain no matter what kind of a system you have. Diapers, strong chemicals, oils, plastic, dental floss. I don't know how many people really do this, but don't flush dental floss down the toilet, particularly if you have a grinder pump. It can get caught up in there just like the wipes. Q-tips, tampons. Tampons, they also call them flushable. Those really should go in the garbage. Stones, shells. People throw their quahog shells down the drain. I don't even know how you do that, but shells don't go down the drain. And as I mentioned before, these shouldn't go into a gravity system either. So grinder pumps, it causes a problem right on your property. If you do this and it's on the gravity system, it causes a problem a little further down the road on the town's sewer system. During a power outage, the only recommendation is to limit water use if you have a grinder pump during that power outage, for the duration of the power outage. The grinder pumps have a 70-gallon tank. When the power's out, your dishwasher's not going to be running, your clothes washer's not going to be operating. Those things require electricity. So really what goes down the drain when there's a power outage is you're flushing your toilet or you're washing your hands, whatever, that kind of use. That's fine. There should be plenty of storage in your grinder pump tank for a day's worth of normal wastewater. The town will provide pump out during an extended power outage, but to be honest, I cannot imagine that we're going to be able to get to each property more than once a day during that, particularly if it's a large property, or excuse me, a large power outage. And in the winter with snow and all that. So we will do what we can, and we will get to each house once a day if we need to, but we don't expect to be pumping multiple times in a day for a single house. If you do want a backup generator for your property that would cover your entire building as well as your grinder pump, there is information on our website that your electrician should look at about sizing the generator for that. That is an option. Some people already have a backup generator. Some people are electing to put one in. I will say that there are lots of, and F.R. Mahoney or Henry may speak a little bit about this, there are lots of properties that have these pumps. There are lots of homeowners that have these pumps. I have called to lots of communities and asked about power outages, and nobody does this. Nobody goes from property to property and pumps out grinder pumps. It's something that the town has said they will do, and we will do it as best we can during an emergency. But in general, people have not found it to be something that they require in an emergency. Before you leave for an extended period of time, I know these are seasonal homes. Before you leave for an extended period of time, just fill the tub with fill your bathtub with clean water, and then let it drain through the system. And that's enough to just flush the wastewater, flush the solids out of the line and to the street. Your pump will run and it'll flush that clean water out of it. We did talk a lot in a previous meeting about potential winterization procedures, and we talked about putting antifreeze in the pump unit, like just the same kind of antifreeze you would put in your boat when you're winterizing your boat. Through extensive discussions, we've come around to the fact that almost nobody needs to winterize their grinder pump. There may be an installation where somebody really has their grinder pump exposed and they're not going to be there and it's a very tough winter. There may be an installation where it would be recommended that you would put antifreeze into your pump for the winter. But in general, again, Henry will talk about it, there are thousands of installations out here and people's pumps aren't freezing. So I just would recommend if this is a seasonal home and you're only there in the summer, when you leave for the summer, just fill up a bathtub, run clean water through your system, and you're fine. There are user instructions and contact information for E1 F.R. Mahoney that are provided with the grinder pump units. Henry, I want to give you a chance to talk a little bit. Yep.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you for allowing me to come here. Just wanted to kind of talk about our history a little bit and our service and the reliability. This is all new to many of you, and to me, it's old hat. So I've been doing this for 17 years with F.R. Mahoney. So F.R. Mahoney and Associates is the New England distributor for Environment One. We are, it's part of our service agreement and our agreement to sell the product. We have to provide the support, the service support, parts, and Environment One makes sure that we do that. They support and back up our efforts. So our service department has 7 technicians on the road with fully stocked trucks, with parts, with spares, with loaners. As Amy mentioned, if, middle of the night, there's an emergency and we have to pull a pump to do a repair, I think the last thing you want us to do is to sit there in your yard pulling a pump apart and trying to fix it. So the prudent thing is to put in a loaner. These things are all modular. Put in a loaner, get you back up in service, take the pump back, and do the repairs. So they're made so we can do those types of repairs and minimize your disruption. The service sticker that you see on the slide is on the front of your panel. There's also a service sticker that should be placed on your remote sentry. So you'll have our phone number. That is a call center in Southbridge, Mass, where we dispatch all of our service technicians. After hours, it goes to a call center that forwards to our service technicians who are cell phone and pager notified. So we cover in New England 30 to 40,000 pumps installed probably at this point. We've kind of lost track. And we maintain service with 7 technicians. So that should give you an idea about the reliability of the product, that this is something that if it was breaking down often, then there would be a fleet of service technicians. Our goal is to make the cost of ownership affordable, keep the cost of ownership low. We're not in the business of making money from service. We're in the business of making money selling the systems. So in this negotiation, the bid, we have a 5-year warranty. Our warranty is a little bit different than most manufacturers, where we actually come to your house to fix the pump. So parts and labor are included in our warranty. With other warranties that are on the market, it's pull the pump and send it back to the factory for evaluation. So that was key, and I think that our warranty sort of drove the specifications that were used as part of your bid process. I do want to say that we service many communities throughout New England, and Falmouth is by and large leading in many ways with the process that they've undergone, the things that they're doing for the homeowners, things that we've learned over the years, we've helped to advise, and there's some feedback that we've gotten that's helped us refine our processes. So it's been a great working relationship with the town, with Amy, and with Kyle. So we're here to get feedback as well, and we're always available for support, and that's our role. So, and I'll be around for questions when we open it up.
Thank you very much, Henry. Costs. This is the last subject of the presentation. There are 4 types of costs that we need to talk about for the sewer connections. The first is the betterment. The next is the cost of the sewer connection and the septic system abandonment. The next is the sewer charges, and last, the maintenance cost. Just a second, I want to look at that's right. Okay, so I'll talk more about the betterment and the sewer connection costs. Sewer charges, you're charged for sewer on your water and sewer bill. In the past, you've all gotten a semi-annual water bill. After you're connected to the sewer system, you will, on that same water bill, get a sewer charge for your water use. We don't put in a separate meter for water and sewer. You're charged for sewer based on your metered water use. The sewer rate right now is $6.70 per 100 cubic feet, which is about 748 gallons of water use. We don't allow a separate meter. The water department really actually doesn't allow a separate meter for water and sewer or a separate irrigation meter. Irrigation wells may be permitted. If that's something you're interested in, you'd need to go to the Board of Health to look at that. There are setback requirements from property lines. Those have been reduced a little bit based on the considerations of this project. But that's a Board of Health issue if you're interested in having a separate irrigation well. But we don't put in separate meters for irrigation use. Maintenance costs. As I'd said, there really isn't a maintenance cost on these unless there is abuse of the pump. There is a small electricity charge that should be on the order of, it'll be less than $5 a month is my, we have a couple of grinder pumps that are actually municipal grinder pumps elsewhere in the system, and I pay those bills and they're like $5.53 a month, and it's for a duplex, it's for a bigger system that serves. So the electricity cost is not a big cost for these. And it'll be added on your regular electricity bill, but you shouldn't see your electricity use increase much or even necessarily even noticeably from the grinder pump. The betterment. The estimated betterment cost for one sewer equivalent unit, or SEU, is $16,201.43. That was voted at the Board of Selectmen's Betterment hearing, which was held back in July of 2015. All of the single-family residential units in this service area are assigned one SEU. So the maximum betterment that any single-family residential lot would be assessed is that number I just read, the $16,203 number. There are 27 properties that were assessed multiple SEUs. Multifamily residential or commercial properties were assessed more than one SEU, but it sounds like most, if not everyone in this audience, is just one betterment unit. The final betterment cost will be determined after the project is 100% complete, which I expect to be certainly the project will be complete this summer. I would expect that the follow-up discussions about final cost would be this fall. So the final betterment cost is determined by the final total project cost, as well as, and that final total project cost will be divided by the number of betterment units to get the final betterment number. However, that betterment number can't go up. It could go down a little if the final project cost comes down, but if the cost of the project were to go up, that betterment number cannot go up. That's just the way betterment works. So that's sort of a ceiling on the betterment number. Tricia Favuli was going to speak about the betterment assessment as well. Tricia Favuli is the town assessor. Thank you.
Not a problem. Good evening. I don't have mine memorized as well as Amy. She's presented hers quite a few times, but I can give you the basics on it. When the project is complete and totally paid out, the selectmen will commit the bills to the assessor's office. We and then will notify all of the homeowners that they have a 30-day notice to contact us, return their paperwork. In that paperwork, they'll have the option to choose a 30-year payoff, 5-year payoff, whatever your term may be between 1 and 30 years, or to pay it in full. There'll be no interest on that, as the town has 0% interest on this whole project, which is wonderful. You'll be charged on your third and fourth quarter bill. It'll be along right in with your tax bill, so it'll be very clear on there what you're paying. You can defer that full amount, the $16,000, for up to the 30 years. If you do defer it, it has to be a primary residence, and there's income and asset levels that you would have to meet. Many people in the area have already called and got the interest rate and all that interest from us. One of the most important things that you have to keep in mind with that is if you do have a mortgage on your property, a reverse mortgage, any type of funding against your property, that lender has to sign off. They have to be in agreement with this because the town will put a lien on the property for the deferred amount. On that deferral program, you can defer the whole thing annually, or you can pay partial annually and defer the remainder of that. The choice is yours. You're just going to come in, you're going to fill out an application with my staff or myself, supply your income, your assets, your tax return, proof that it's your primary home, and then we'll walk you through the process. I think that's about it. As long as it's your primary residence, you're over 70 years of age, and you meet the income and asset guidelines. I'm available in my office at any time, so please, if you have questions that you don't ask tonight, you think of something later on, you can just call us at any time. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Tricia. The sewer connection costs and the septic abandonment costs, unfortunately, I can't tell you what that's going to be. Those costs have varied quite a bit from property to property based on the size and the layout of the property, where the existing septic lines come out of your house, and what the size of your existing septic system is, the location of the septic system relative to the street. Some people it's in front of the house, some people it's in the back of the house. Whether you're a gravity or a low pressure connection. Electrical service upgrade. There are some properties that will need an electrical service upgrade for the grinder pump installation. Your electrician will have to look at that. You need a 30 amp service that's available for this connection. And your electrician for the work will have to determine that. The biggest uncertainty in the cost really is property restoration. What kind of landscaping you have there and what you want when you're done, decks, paving, driveway, that kind of stuff. Those things affect the installation cost more than anything else, and that's very difficult to look at. So I'd recommend, because of these uncertainties and because it is an important consideration, I'd recommend getting 3 quotes. Potential assistance with the cost. There is a state income tax credit that is available for sewer connection and for septic abandonment costs. However, a verification letter was sent to every property owner in the Little Pond Sewer Service area with your address on it, with the property owner's address on it, saying this is a verification letter for tax purposes if it's applicable, and it's saying that your property is being required to connect to the sewer, and so this credit may apply. The Title V tax credit is only applicable for Massachusetts taxpayers who occupy this property as their principal residence. So if it's a second home, then this tax credit is not going to apply. Obviously, I'm not a tax attorney, and I can't give you tax advice. We sent this letter. We sent information about it. If you need a new copy of the letter, the letter was sent a while ago. If you can't find that letter, and once your installation is complete, you can get a new one from my office through Kyle or through me. And you can send that with the Schedule SC with your Massachusetts income tax return. And the credit, if it's available, would be for the tax year in which you do the installation. So if you're doing this work in 2017, you want to apply for that tax credit for tax year 2017. But also consult a tax attorney or your financial person about this. We're providing the information, but I cannot tell you whether it applies for your property or not. There is also a county septic management loan credit program, and the contact information at the county is here in this slide, and it's also on our website. Kendall Ayers. That's a loan over 20 years at 5% interest for the cost of septic abandonment and the sewer connection. One last thing I wanted to mention is a flow-neutral bylaw. The town voted what they called a flow-neutral bylaw, which affects any sewered property in the town of Falmouth, and it affects development and redevelopment in existing and in new sewered areas. So a single-family residence may by right have 4 bedrooms on a parcel that's 40,000 square feet or less. So if you already have 4-bedroom house, you're you're set with that. But if you have a 2 or a 3-bedroom house, this bylaw allows expansion to that number under this flow neutral concept. On parcels greater than 40,000 square feet, a single family residence may have 1 bedroom per 10,000 square feet. There aren't a whole lot of lots that are that size in this area, so that doesn't apply to most people. But the first item does. So by right, you can go up to 4 bedrooms within this bylaw. Additional bedrooms, though, if you want to go beyond that number, you'll have to get a variance, apply for a variance from the Board of Selectmen. There are other limitations, and I know you can't see this reference here, but this is just a reminder to me that the town code is on the town's website, and you can look up this flow neutral bylaw on the town's website under town code. As I mentioned, all the information is on the town website. Here's Kyle's contact information. Kyle Swanstrom is in the Department of Public Works building at 416 Gifford Street, as am I. And I'm glad to take your questions. I wanted to remind you that because we're being recorded for television, I would love it if you could ask your question at this microphone, or if you can't move from any location in the room, I can bring you this microphone to use instead. Thank you for your time, and I'd be glad to ask questions or answer questions. You can come up to the microphone if you'd like to ask them, or just raise your hand if you can't, and ask for a microphone if you can't come to it. Okay, got a couple. Would you like me to bring you a microphone? So there's some gentlemen. Please.
Since I've had the
Can you
plumbers,
get, I'm sorry,
Oh,
can I
sorry.
ask you to get a little closer? Yeah, there you go.
sorry, since I've had the plumbers out, they have called DigSafe, and it happens that my gas line is very close to where the pipe is going to go, extremely close, and this is going to cause them to have to put dirt on my neighbor's property, and
Okay.
hopefully that's not going to be an issue. The other thing is, with the DigSafe, like I said, it's very close to the gas line. The TV cable is exactly where the sewer pipe is going. So is it going to be an additional problem?
So the question is about other utilities, in
Correct.
particular gas and TV in this case. I'm glad that your contractors are looking at these things ahead of time. Some of them haven't, and it can make it more complicated. Yeah, that can be difficult. Water lines, if the sewer were going to cross over the water line, they would need to sleeve either the sewer or the water line. In your case, in the case of gas, it requires additional caution by your contractor in that trench. They will have to avoid that gas line. They can call the gas company and see about shutting it off while they're working. That may be an option. But our contractor just did install sewers in all these streets near all these gas lines, and it does require careful work in that vicinity and supporting the gas lines temporarily while they're working in the trench. It can be done, but it does require extra care, and it sounds like they're planning to do that.
Okay.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi, thank you. I'm Charles Grant Walker, 71 Philadelphia Street, T-ticket, precinct number 3.
Sound like a town meeting member.
Yeah. I actually have 3 questions, if I
Okay.
may. You mentioned not having grease go down. I assume that's from meat and chicken and turkey and things like that?
What I'm talking about is large quantities of grease. A small amount of grease from washing your dishes is not a big deal. But you know, when you're frying bacon and you get all that grease in the pan, most people, in my house, we pour it in a can, and when it hardens, we throw it out.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So you don't want to pour excessive amounts of grease down the drain. It can handle normal kitchen waste. We don't recommend, a lot of people like garbage disposals. I'm not a big fan of those because it's just flushing your food down the drain to our sewer system and all that. But it shouldn't be a big deal for the grinder pumps, just regular food waste. Your question was grease. Yes, small amounts of regular grease from washing your plates is not a problem.
Same with vegetable oil?
Sure.
That's what you mean by oil?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
what we are concerned about is it congealing down further. When the grease is liquid, when it's in your pan and it's warm, and then you pour it down the drain to a place where it's colder, and it can freeze up right there and clog up your own pipes, or it can solidify in your pump and cause a problem there.
All right.
So that's why we're asking.
Okay,
That
thank
was
you.
number one. Yeah.
Second question is, what is an irrigation well? Is that a well that draws water from the ground, or does that take water from the town water supply, or?
So I don't think this is going to be something a lot of people are going to do, but we have gotten questions about it, so I mentioned it. There are people that have like larger lawn or plantings and that they want to irrigate, and they don't want to pay a sewer cost for every cubic foot of water that they put on their lawn. We don't allow we can't handle a separate meter for those two uses, but some people have looked into putting in a well, yes, and it's a groundwater well. They hire somebody to come out and drill a well in, and it's going to have a pump in it to pump water out to water their plantings and their grass. So there are people that do it. I don't know if anybody has added it because of this project in Falmouth Heights, but the Board of Health is the one that regulates those. And one of the restrictions is on setbacks from other things, and a lot of these lots are really small, so you'd have to talk to the Board of Health about whether something like that would work for you.
Okay, thank you. And my final question is regarding the number of betterment units. Can that number rise up with new construction or modification of structures? And if it does rise, how does that affect the share of the betterment cost for the current property owners?
So my understanding is no, that number of units cannot change. The Board of Selectmen had a betterment hearing, and that was an official hearing that occurred in, as I said, in 2015. And at that, they set the number of betterment units, and they assigned the betterment to all the properties. And a lien was put on those properties. We are not at this time allowing properties outside the service area to connect. So there's not a large potential for expansion. But if there were subdivision within this area, for example, in the next couple of years, you cannot add people retroactively to the betterment. The town can explore whether there are other options, and the town can charge a reasonable connection cost to those property owners, but you can't increase the number of betterment units after the betterment hearing. We do get calls about people who were assessed a betterment for an undeveloped property, and they say, I'm never going to develop this property, I don't want to pay this betterment. After the betterment, the total cost has been finalized, people can apply for a variance from the board. A variance, is that what it's called, Trish? A waiver. Abatement. Through the Board of Selectmen and with the help of the assessor's office. So we did assess a betterment of some undeveloped properties, and if people want to put a deed restriction, I believe it would be on that property, and say I'm never going to develop it, there is a process to do that, to pull out of the betterment. In that case, it doesn't make everybody else's betterment cost go up. It means that the town's share of the cost goes up by that much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Others can step up to the microphone if they wish. Oh, come on.
Yeah, in your presentation, you talked about $6.70 per.
100 cubic feet, yeah?
How does that compare with the price of water coming into the house?
Ooh, good
To
question.
me, it sounds like it's 2/3 more.
I would have said it's more than that. Yeah, I want to say the water rate's like $3.30.
Yeah.
So it's
So a
almost
$200
twice.
water bill today
Yep.
is going to be probably closer to $800.
It increases water bills.
Okay.
Yes, definitely.
That's question
I mean,
number
it's a
one.
higher cost than a water bill, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
In addition, in other words,
In
if we're
a-
paying $200 today for our water, we're going to be paying $800
If
down the
that's-
road,
Per,
correct?
yes.
Okay, all right. And that was my first question. My other one is, has the town established any reasonable rate that we should be paying per foot for an easy installation? Forget about the pumps. The pumps only represent about 10%, I believe, of the population,
About
right?
half.
I think you said about 100, oh, okay. that
It's
is
about
good.
half.
Okay, half. But the estimates that people are getting are ranging from $3,000 to $9,000. And people have had the same statement of work from 3 different contractors. What is the town doing about that? Why haven't they published a rate, an average rate, so much per foot?
Yeah, that would be tough to do. I understand the question, and I have heard that, a similar kind of question from others. It would be very difficult for the town to come up with and to justify a per unit cost. As I said, there are so many factors that vary from property to property, and it's up to the contractor how they're going to charge for the work. Some people are, scraping by, and some people are, people bid these jobs different ways, and it's not up to the town to say how that's going to work. So I understand this is why we recommend getting 3 quotes. It sounds like the 3,000 was a good quote.
It was,
in this
because
case.
I was reading it online, actually, where somebody actually had that done. They had the job done. The town has to inspect it.
Yeah,
when the
so
job
I-
is done.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I was
it's
being,
got to be done properly.
I was being a little flippant. Obviously,
Yeah.
the contractor needs to do the job right. And if you have a reason to believe that you're getting a low ball bid that doesn't make any sense, obviously you got to be careful. And we're going to have to make that, we're going to do the best we can to make sure your contractor does the right job. So there are very, very few that would be in the $3,000 range. Most of them will be more than that. There are a few that, some of these lots are very small, and the sewer's going to come right out of the front of the property into the street, and some of those are less expensive. But 3,000 is a very low number.
Okay. And my last question is, I forgot it now.
Oh,
I don't know. I'll have to come back with it. So, what's that? I'm done.
okay. I'll be here if you want to ask more questions. I'm not begging for questions now. I'm here, and Henry will be here, Tricia will be here, Kyle. So if you want to talk to us afterwards, we're happy to. Any more for now? Okay, thank you very much for coming. I appreciate your patience and your interest. I'll just talk with you. How about that?